Hello, darlings, and welcome to week 6. Ooh, it's the end, but really it's the beginning, let's be honest. Week 6, it's been such a magical 6 weeks, and watching you guys begin to bring your charts to life has just been magic for me. It lights my heart up and my soul up. So thank you so much for sharing this 6-week journey with me. So week 6, we're going to start to put everything together, share a little bit more about the houses and the angles and the big 3, and sort of go over just a few more components to add to the layers that you already have. So in your notebook, you'll already see straight away sort of this little cool handout that I've got there that says, what do you want to do on Friday night? And I'm like, me, that's what I do on a Friday night and every other night. It's all about the charts. So week 6, we are going to put together. So you have the houses. You diving into the houses is such an epic layer of understanding the chart, right? So all of a sudden you're seeing, oh, well, if that planet is in the 3rd house, that means that it's going to express itself in the house of communication. So that is sort of where we're at. We are at the natural chart and the natural houses. So the 3rd house will always be, say, communication. The 1st house will always be self. The 9th house will always be philosophy and religion and travel, right? So then what changes the sign yours is in, if you don't have an Aries ascendant, which is a lot of people, they don't have an Aries ascendant, only one of my whole 5 of us have an Aries ascendant, is that then that house has another lens through it. And that lens is through the sign that rules the house. So if we're looking at the houses, the cusp of the house is where the house begins. So you're looking at the sign of where the house begins. So of course, if you have a Libra ascendant, that rules your 1st house. If you have, and then what comes after Libra? Scorpio, and then Sag, and then Capricorn. So you're just going through the zodiac, and that is what each of they then consecutively rule each house. So ultimately, your ascendant sets up your unique individual blueprint. Okay, so we are going to dive into the angles, which are your ascendant on the left-hand side, the descendant on the right-hand side, your MC right up the top, and your IC right down the bottom. So you can see they are like a cross, yeah? That is a cross in your wheel, and these are the angular houses. So the ascendant sets everything up. So we know that the 1st house is self, but your ascendant might be in the sign of Leo, or it might be in the sign of Virgo, and then you're just going to go around, and then each house will be layered and lensed through that sign. So the house placement itself will never change. The 3rd house is always communication. But if your 3rd house is ruled by Aries, which would mean what? That the 2nd house is ruled by Pisces, and the 1st house, which would be the ascendant, is ruled by Aquarius. Okay, so that's me just going backwards. Yeah, so you start to, this is why the 12 signs and the planets are so important to have such a fundamental understanding of, because yeah, automatically you're going to know 2 signs before and 2 signs after. You're going to know this stuff eventually off the top of your head. I promise. If you keep reiterating and maybe watching the teaching videos and keep diving in, keep taking notes, keep reading books. I mean, God, there's books out there that are just on the houses. And all of them have the similar theme, don't they? Because the 3rd house is the 3rd house, but the way that the author has studied it with certain people or explained it in that book, I mean, it's just a constant invitation to open up and not be fixed on, well, it can only mean this. Like, it always will mean this, but just the way that it can be interpreted around 3rd house communication, right? So if your 3rd house is communication, so yes, it's naturally ruled by Gemini, but for you, your 3rd house is Aries. Well, of course, what would that mean? That would mean that you maybe come across as more Arian in the way you talk. You might not even have any planets in the 3rd house, and that's okay too, because still your learning, teaching, and communication style will have a flavor of Aries. Okay, so that's how the chart changes for everyone, is that unless you have an Aries ascendant, and if you do, all of the planets, all of the signs are in their natural homes, aren't they? So they're naturally where they are. So I feel like it's sort of, it can express itself quite easily because it's where it lives. You know, it's at home. It's like Mars being in Aries. It's at home there. It knows how to work there. Okay, so that's sort of, that's, well, that's not sort of, that is exactly sort of how it works. I'm saying sort of a lot. I don't know why. So let's talk about the angular houses. So if we're looking at 9 o'clock on the clock, that is our ascendant, okay? So this is the time that you were born. This is why time of birth is very, very important, because it sets up the whole chart. Oh, beautiful butterfly just flew past my window. Hello, that's a gift of love. Pink tourmaline in the liquid crystals. Anyway, so that is why the time of birth is imperative, because you can see it sets up the whole chart. So your time of birth then sets up each house and what sign it's being ruled by, which then what does that do? Then that puts the planets that are in those signs, excuse me, into those houses. So that is why time is really important, okay? And if you, like I've probably said it over the 6 weeks, if you've got a great astrologer friend or you see someone like me or someone else that you resonate with, they can help you come up with the time purely by sort of getting to know you and start understanding the way you are. Because as you know, the first house is self, so the ascendant starts the first house. So this is pretty much the entire blueprint of your life. Yeah, everything that you do is filtered through your ascending sign. So your ascending sign is a part of what is our big three, which we'll chat a little bit about. We touch on a lot of it here, but I will chat a little bit about it after we talk about the angular houses. But the big three are the sun, moon, and ascendant. So let's dive into this ascendant. The ascendant is how you are perceived and how you present yourself to the world. So obviously, if your sun and ascendant are the same, that would mean that your sun is in the 12th house, which means that the sun can be hidden, or the sun is in the first house, which means that it's out loud and proud. So the thing is that the ascendant and the sun, if they're in the same sign, you sort of, wherever you go, you're very the same. Like you can't hide who you are. Your sun in your 12th house may feel like you don't know who you are, or it's always like, because the sun in the 12th house, it's in the 12th house. It's your personality, but in the house that's hidden and in the unconscious. And my eldest daughter has this placement. And look, it just takes more work for people with the sun in their 12th house, because they've got to go deep and uncover parts of themselves that are hidden, okay? Whereas sun in the first house is the opposite. They are sort of like, here I am, like I can't hide from myself. It's the same if your moon and your ascendant are in the same sign. Say your moon is in your first house. You sort of can't hide your emotions from anyone, right? Like you can be read like a book. Maybe if it's a Scorpio ascendant, the Scorpio moon, maybe not. But ultimately, in general, if your moon and your ascendant, or your sun and your ascendant are in the same sign, it's easier. There's no sort of facade. And now I don't say this in a negative way, because the ascendant isn't a facade per se, but it's sort of the mask that we go out into the world with, okay? It's how I greet my neighbours. It's how I answer the door. It's how I answer the phone. So I have a Libra ascendant, so it's very friendly and diplomatic, yeah? So that is how I can come across. Well, I do come across like that because that's my Libra ascendant. Plus I have 3 other planets in Libra, so I'm heavy Libra. But the thing is that a big thing is that if your ascendant and sun are very, very opposing, like very, very different, it can often feel like this inner duality, right? Like I've got this Leo sun, but this Scorpio ascendant who's sort of like, I'm not showing you who I am, and I'm going to wear this sort of face, and I'm not going to let you in, and I'm going to be a bit guarded. But the Leo's like, hey, I'm loud and I'm out there, and I want to be on stage. But the Scorpio ascendant can really hide that. So a big thing is that most astrologers say that a lot of people don't actually live out their sun signs until later in life, that they're actually living their life through their ascendant, which is the blueprint of our chart. So the ascendant plays an extremely big role in the part of our life. So that sign very much is you as well. So that's why in horoscope land, when people are just going in general, Taurus this week for you, or Virgo this week for you, which is very general, you can go to your ascending sign and listen to that one, and that one can maybe be more relevant, because that's the ascending sign. That is where your whole chart starts from. is that sign. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the ascendant. It's your personality. It's your outer layer. It is how other people see you. It's your personality, your appearance. It's the first thing that people notice about you. Sort of, it's the first impressions. It's your persona. It's your image. So it's also about the way you look. It's your birth, your starting point into early life as well. So, you know, something like Pluto on the ascendant can show maybe a traumatic birth, or maybe the mum died, or maybe the mum nearly died, or maybe the baby nearly died. Because what's Pluto? Pluto is death and rebirth. And having any planets on these angles that I'm just about to share with you means that they've got the front row ticket to that angle. So when you start to understand, so the angles rule the first house, the ascendant, the IC, the fourth house, the DC, the seventh house, and the MC, the 10th house. So the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses are very important because they are the angular houses. Now, these angular points that I'm talking about, these are what start the houses, yeah? So this is the energy that starts what that house is about. So you know about the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th house. You know about that. So what I'm sharing is this added layer that these are the angular houses, and you must know about that. These angular houses are very important. And what you'll even look at is, what are your angular houses in? Are they cardinal angular houses, or mutable, or are they fixed? So that then adds a different dimension, because these 4 points are how you are seen, your personality, what sort of people you attract, your deep inner self, and then your outer self. So these 4 parts of the chart are actually a very big part of who we are. The angular houses, I will reiterate, are very, very important. Okay, so any planets in the angular houses? Yeah, any planets near the actual angles. Now, when I'm saying near the angles, it needs to be close in degree. Now, you can see in your chart that you'll have your planet and you'll have a little number, and it might be Jupiter at 4 degrees, okay? And your ascendant might be might be a sign, Libra, and Jupiter might be in Libra at 4 degrees, and your ascendant might be in Libra and 2 degrees. Well, obviously that's close. That's 2 degrees away. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? So that's where you look at really tight things. Obviously, conjunctions and these sorts of things aren't covered here, and they're not, you know, higher developed or, you know, more advanced skills, because everything comes back to the foundations, everything. So if you understand Jupiter and you understand one of these angles, you're going to understand that Jupiter influences that angle. Yeah, that's what you're going to understand. So obviously someone with Jupiter on their ascendant, big personality, big smile, big happy face, big persona. That's what they're going to have. Yeah. And maybe their birth entry was huge as well. So there's, you know, all sorts of different things we can see in the first house and the 12th house when it comes to the 12th house being the womb, where you came from, and karma, and the first house being maybe the way you were brought in. But the closer the planets are to the angles, the more prominent they are. When they get further out, not so prominent, okay? So how we get obviously the ascendant is, the sign is, as the sun was rising at that time, that was the ascending sign as the sun rose over the horizon at the moment of your birth. What sign was rising over the horizon at the moment of your birth? That is the sign of your ascendant. Yeah, I actually had a cool person to talk about. So, like I said, planets that are on the angles are important. So Bjork, the singer, is a triple Scorpio. Now, we've got what's called a purebred in a sign. So someone who has like sun, moon, well, sometimes moon, definitely moon if it's in this, but Sun, Venus, Mercury, and ascendant, that is very much a purebred of the sun. We know that Mercury is never too far away from the sun. We know that Venus is also not too far away from the sun either. So, you know, and you see that in your own chart. Like my daughter's a Cancerian. She's got a Mercury, Leo Mercury. So that's only one sign away. Same with me. I have a Taurus sun. And what have I got? I've got Mars and Venus both in Taurus. So whilst I don't have my ascendant or my moon in Taurus, can you imagine if I did? I would be like a purebred Taurian. However, I have 4 placements in Taurus, so I feel very strongly, and all the rest, most of the other ones are Venus ruled. So, you know, I'm probably not a great example. But what I'm saying is that the sun, Venus isn't always far, Mercury isn't always far, and the ascendant, if they're all in the same sign, that is a purebred of a sign. And you top the moon there, and sometimes even Mars as well. Mars orbit's a little bit different, but if you get them all there, that is a purebred. So what I wanted to share is, so for Bjork, her sun, her moon, and her ascendant, which is also called rising, it doesn't matter, they're both the same thing, are all in Scorpio. Now, hello, isn't that so fascinating? Because look at her, she is such a deep, mysterious, Plutonian person. So she, just to have those three, I would nearly say that's like a purebred too, though, because they're the big three. They are what we present every single day, is the sun, moon, and the ascendant. So that is very purebred. But you add Venus and Mercury to that, and I can't remember her chart, but Mercury is either going to be what, in Scorpio, or it might be in Sag, or it might have been in retrograde. So and maybe verging on Libra. So who knows? But the thing is that she also might have Venus and Mercury in Scorpio. But the thing is she's got her big three in the one sign. So that is very pure, that sign. So someone with a sun Scorpio would never be as pure as someone with three of them Scorpio. You get what I'm saying? It's very, very powerful. These angular houses are the framework of our chart, yeah? So let's keep going with the ascendant. It's how you project yourself, and it's how others see you. Like I said, a lot of people live out their lives comfortable in their ascending sign and not comfortable in their sun sign. But what do we know, guys? We know that you are here to master your sun sign. So if you are feeling like you resonate more with your ascendant than you do with your sun sign, that's something to look at. It means you've got to dive deeper into that sun sign. You've got to really start to master it. The ascendant can hide the sun sign in some cases, and that's where we want to know our charts. That's why some people are like, oh, I definitely don't relate to being a Virgo, but then they've got 5 planets in their ascendant in a completely different sign. So of course they actually have to work a little bit harder to go. I think especially if you've got your sun sign and it's the only sign in that, it's the only planet in that sign. So say someone's a Virgo sun, but they have nothing else in Virgo. Their ascendant's over here in friggin', what could it be? And it's like Aquarius or something. And it's, and then they've got other planets like their moon in Aquarius, Venus and Mercury. So they're actually quite Aquarian. But they've got to start to master this Virgo sun of theirs, right? Because it's the only thing they've got, but their sun is their expression. So they can feel all this. And I've had a friend like this. She has an Aquarian ascendant and a couple of things in Aquarius, but she's got a lot of stuff in Capricorn, and she's never liked being a Capricorn. She's like, it's boring, it's responsible, it's all these things. And then she did my course and she changed her tune. She's like, right, I really need to master this sun sign stuff. And that's what this is about, is that the ascendant is who we are. It is how we project. It is how others see us. It's, it's our early experiences. Let me read the few things. It's our early experiences. It's our temperament. It's our well-being. It's how your spirit has chosen to reflect itself and project itself into this reality physically. Like, this is it. Like, I've come in with a Libran ascendant. This is how I relate to the world. Yeah. It's a window. It's a lens for how you view the world. Okay, so that is your ascendant. You can't, it's your ascendant. That's a part of your big three. But if your sun is so different to your ascendant and you really resonate with your ascendant more, this is the invitation to go, okay, what am I sort of denying in my sun sign? Is it because I think it's boring, or is it because I've met many of those sun signs and I don't like them? I mean, these are the things that are projections, right? These are the things that we have got to dive into astrology and find that there is no good or bad sign. All signs have their traits, and my favourite quote ever is, a master rules his chart and a fool obeys it. Okay, so we're not here to obey it, because there's always going to be difficult aspects, hard aspects. There's always going to be things that don't really feel great, right? We're here to master those things, though. We're here to embrace those things, be aware of them, accept them, and then move forward with them. That is what we are here to do, yeah? So I just wanted to share that. Obviously, the ascendant is just, it sets your whole chart up. It's about bringing your chart to life. Yeah, that's what all of this is about. It's about bringing your chart to life and not just letting it be stagnant, because that's where I sort of feel like it's the fool obeys, because there's just stuff going on and they don't really plug in. They don't tap into what's going on, because our charts are these like potentials, like they are great potentials. And to understand these angular houses gives us sort of this other layer. It gives us this other element, this other dynamic to go, oh, right. So that's why my career is, this, and that I feel more driven towards those things. That's why I attract these things from my descendant. Oh, that's why I hide this from my IC. So we're working with these angular houses to actually set up something. It's sort of like, that's like I said, it's the framework. It's the framework of your chart. So it's so important to dive into that ascendant, yeah, to dive in. Your birth chart is your inner wiring. That's what it is. It's 10 different kingdoms in 12 different mansions. The 10 different kingdoms are the planets that we work with, and the 12 different mansions are the 12 houses. So this is our inner world. This is our inner kingdom, our inner sanctuary. And we want to be the masters. We want to be the ruler of that, right? It's the kingdom. We want to be the queens or the kings of our own inner life. So it is so imperative to start adding these extra layers. And of course, this is module 1. This is not, diving up so much that we need to, get too complicated. I've really baselined this to keep this very, very simple. But this last week is we're just adding this extra layer, this extra element, so you can really start to build yourself and build your knowledge, and know what's important when you're looking at your own chart, because these are the things that you look at. You go to your children's chart and you're like, right, what are their angular houses? What quality are they in? Are they fixed? Yeah? Are they in the fixed quality? Are they in the mutable quality? Are they in the cardinal quality? And now you will find for some people that 2 of them, so the ascendant and the descendant, are always opposite each other. So I have a Libran ascendant, so what do I have? An Aries descendant. If you have a Scorpio ascendant, what will you have? A Taurus descendant, right? So it's always opposite. And then the midheaven and the IC, MCIC, these are opposite 10th house, 4th house, right? So they will always be opposite too. But the thing is that occasionally you might have 2 cardinal and 2 mutable, okay? You won't have four of the one quality, okay? So it just means that the ascendant and descendant, it come from that quality, and then the MC and the IC, they come from the other quality, and that's all you need to look at. Like, it's not complicated. It's not, if you know what the qualities are, this is what I mean. We're just adding things together. Like, we're putting pieces of the puzzle together. It doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah. So, but these are the bones of looking at, your family's charts, going, oh, right, I've got cardinal angular houses and you've got fixed angular houses. Oh, no wonder you're so more set in stone. So I'll read out a couple of little things about those houses. So if you have cardinal angular houses, I've just got like a couple of, I didn't add this to the notes, but let's read it out because you can take notes. Cardinal houses, of course, are the Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn as your angular houses. These people are self-starting, protective, focused, ambitious. Life is full of motion and movement. They're disciplined. They're socially conscious, and they're aware. If you have fixed angular houses, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, proud, forceful self-expression, pedantic, they're self-ruling, they're individual, they like to be in control, they're determined, they're compulsive, yeah? They're weathered, they direct life on their own terms and conditions. And then these mutable guys, mutable angular houses, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. I mean, these are the chameleons, intellectuals. They're changeable, their self-expression's changeable, their ambitions are changeable, they're changeable. They're unstable and they require constant motion. So like I said, planets that conjunct or sit on the angles are given that VIP seat into your life. You can see a lot that goes on there. If someone's got Mars on the ascendant, often those people are very athletic, very sports driven. So a lot of famous sports people have Mars on their ascendant. Yeah, because what is Mars? Mars is about strength. It's the warrior. Sport, movement, action. So this is what we're looking at here. Yeah. Let's talk about the IC, which is the bottom of the house. Let me just have more drink. It's been lots of talking today. Okay, I don't think I need that book. As per usual, I have a million books in front of me with a million different things. Let's move on to the IC. So your imam Kohli is what it's called. It is the midnight part of the chart. It starts the 4th house. This is where you come from, your family background, your conditioned behaviours, how secure and stable you feel. This is your home, your roots, okay? This is lineage, genetics, family background, family history, home life. So while the first house, which is your ascendant, can give off early childhood, this is like the home. This is the home. So how did you feel in your childhood? Yeah, how do you relate in your childhood? So these sorts of things are really fascinating. So you want to have a look at what sign is there. So what is it naturally ruled by? Cancer. Okay, so it's the nurturer, it's mothering, and that's what the 4th house is. That's what the home is. Yeah. But maybe yours, like mine, is ruled by Capricorn. So I have cardinal angular houses, okay? So Capricorn, which is the opposite of Cancer, isn't it? So my houses are all flipped around. So they're in the opposite placement of where they should be. So this gives the duality of always finding balance, is where it gives the duality. Whereas if you have an Aries ascendant, and all of the houses are naturally where they're meant to be, well, there's this natural progression, like it's easy, they're comfortable there. Whereas mine are the opposite. I have Libra ruling my 1st house and Aries ruling my 7th house. So there's the opposite, right? So there's more about balance, always finding balance in between those things, yeah? But yes, the IC, the 4th house. So you look to the sign that rules your 4th house. And for me, it's Capricorn. So I can look at my childhood and go, wow, yeah, that's so true for me. You know, my parents cared more about providing for us, financially, because what's Capricorn? Success, money, yeah? So they cared more about that, making sure that, yeah, we were, of course, always fed, always had new clothes. You know, we never went without stuff. Okay, we went to the Eka every year. We, you know, for 4 children, growing up in a house of 4 children, we all got a lot. Okay, we got a lot. But emotionally, what was it? There was a lot of disconnect, a lot of push things under the, rug. I had a very domineering, manipulating stepmother who was a Cancerian. So, there was a lot of underhanded stuff. And guess what? The 4th house is what's at the bottom, what's beneath, what's hidden. So whilst on the surface, I don't think on the surface we ever came across our family as together. I have step siblings. My real mum gave me up when I was 4 to my dad. So fascinating enough, I can relate, that's Capricorn, isn't it? Capricorn is, stern, it can be cold. We know, let's go back to our notes of Saturn and Capricorn, Cronus ate his own children. We've got to look at the dynamic and the history of the sign and the history of maybe what planets are there. So I have no planets in my 4th house. So I'm one of those people that, how people are really interested in their ancestry or, they're I'm not family orientated. I've got 3 daughters and my husband, and that to me is my family. Anything external, then the next best is Joel's family, like Joel's dad and his dad's wife. They've got children, Joel's sisters and Joel's older sisters. That to me is my home. They are my core group. And it makes sense. I don't have this connection or this deep cord to my past. I don't have anything to do with my mum anymore. I did a really big ceremony last year around completely releasing her from my life. And, my father's passed away. So I actually feel like an orphan in the world. And so here I am with nothing in my 4th house. And I don't have that real fascination to, that Ancestry.com, those commercials that come on. It's like, I want to find out where I'm from. And I'm like, it's got nothing to do with now. I'm not really interested. It's not a big thing for me. And it makes sense, right? Whereas someone with maybe a lot more, many planets in their 4th house, their family is tight, or they sort of can't get away from their family, no matter what, it always comes back to family. So the family stuff is always very present for them. And it's sort of like they can't ever release themselves from family stuff, right? Often with a lot of 4th house stuff too is what's familiar in childhood is often recreated in life as well. So So yes, the IC, the Imam Kohli. I just say the IC because it's easier than trying to say Imam Kohli each time. This is where you came from, your need for roots, the psychology of yourself. It's where you need to feel safe and where you desire to fit into the family. So of course it makes sense that I have nothing there. I don't, A, have a desire to fit into a family, or B, I just never did fit into a family. I mean, my dad's one of 10. He's one of 10, and I have nothing to do with any of his siblings or my cousins or anything. Like, I could probably walk past most of them and I wouldn't even know that it was them. Whereas with Joel's family, obviously he's got the Maori side and the Australian side, but we are so close. I felt going to New Zealand and meeting his whānau in New Zealand, I felt more connected there than I ever have with white family. So it's really fascinating, isn't it, when we start to dive into these angles. Are really amazing to dive into. They really set up so much of everything that happens for you. It's incredible. Like, you just can't make this shit up. It's amazing. Your IC is the discovery of your identity. Yeah, because all of a sudden you're discovering who you are within the family unit. It's also solitude. It's your inner landscape, right? And it's your hidden self. It's what you hide from the public is your fourth house, because it's the most hidden house in a different way to the 12th. We know that the three water houses, 4, 8, and 12, are the deeper houses. They're the more introspective houses. They're the super subconscious, underworld, mysterious, but the fourth house is the midnight part of the chart. And you will actually see in your handouts that I've actually given you just like a little, again, these aren't mine. I didn't do them. I just found them and I just add them in. It's even got the lady on the bottom, it's reference to her. She does a lot of these things up, which I highly recommend, because she gives a lot of, so her name's Kim. I can't pronounce her last name, but you've got it there. And yeah, she's awesome. So she does a lot of visual things which are really good. So this is actually giving you an indication of the 4 angles and around what time you would have to be born and where your sun would be. So yes, the 4th house, the IC is the midnight part. The MC is the noon. 6 a.m. is the ascendant and 6 p.m. is the descendant, because what it's doing is the sun is setting, it's midnight, then the sun is rising, then it's noon. See, and that's just the cycle of how it goes. So this is a nice little visual, right? So that is why if there is, and look, I've got planets in my 8th and 12th house. So there is still, a lot more to me than meets the eye, but I don't hide things. I have nothing in my 4th house, whereas people with things in their 4th house, there's a lot that's hidden. There is a lot that you don't know about, and that you may never know about, because they do keep everything very close to their chest. They might be open and vulnerable and share things, but it's the midnight part of the chart, right? It's the innermost landscape of the self. It's like midnight. Well, it's midnight. It's like all the lights are off, and that's where all their planets are. So often people with a lot of planets in the 4th actually always really like nighttime. Usually they really like night because they feel sort of safe, if that makes sense. So you get it, okay? That is the IC. And of course, if you've got planets right on the IC, that is going to really flavour the 4th house for you. That is really going to flavour that. So someone, say, who has Uranus right on that IC, very disruptive, tumultuous childhood. Yeah, maybe they moved around a lot. Maybe they moved houses a lot. Maybe there was lots of chaos. So someone with Uranus in the fourth or on the IC, like very close in degrees, that they could be used to turmoil or drama or things just changing, and they'd be very adaptable because that's what they're used to. They grow up in quite a unstable home. Someone with Neptune on the IC in the 4th house, that could be, maybe there was alcohol in the house growing up, or an addiction, or maybe it was a very spiritual house. It's going to go a myriad of different ways. We've got to look at the whole chart. We can't just isolate. But in this circumstance, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to pick up pieces of the enormous puzzle that is astrology and the chart, and just try and isolate them to get a good feeling for them. So you go, right, okay, so yeah, Neptune, there could be alcohol, say, because Neptune is around addiction, right? But put it into perspective when you pop it back in and you look at the whole chart, it definitely might not be alcohol, because there's something else going on in the chart that so depicts that it's definitely not alcohol. So you can't, this is where the study of astrology takes decades. You can't just look at everyone with one thing and go, oh, these are all, like, that's what this means and this is how it is. It can't be, it is the whole picture. We have to be looking at the whole picture. But to get the whole picture, we need the parts. Yeah, we need the moving parts and we need to start feel them. And you know, the best thing to do is to ask people, so how does this play out for you? And take notes. You know, sometimes I say something and it's completely wrong and I'm completely fine with that. I'm not always right. I'm not experiencing someone else's chart. Charts are experiential. So I could say, oh, the moon could mean this and maybe it's playing out and I could have missed something else. And then they'll go, oh, no, but it's like this for us. And I'm like, cool. That is awesome to know. And, oh, that's because you've got this here. And all of a sudden everything starts to click, right? Sometimes you're looking at a chart, there's a million things to look at and look for, as you all know, like you're getting that taste of my life. You know, that's the thing. There is so much to look at. And study, it's the study of people. So understanding more that, okay, maybe you've got Neptune there and how was it for you? Was it that, you know, you had a very spiritual upbringing? Or was it that actually, yeah, your parents were alcoholics? Or was it that you seen your parents in like an illusionary way? Because what is Neptune? Illusion, disillusion, rose-coloured glasses. A lot of people that I've read for with Neptune in the fourth or close to the IC, that's very much what it's been for them, is that they sort of depicted their parents or their childhood to be something that it actually wasn't. There was a lot of hidden skeletons in the closet with Neptune in the fourth. So Neptune in the fourth can really depict, you know, a family that comes across like this, but behind closed doors it's nearly the opposite. Like there's a lot of illusion, a lot of secrets, a lot of, you know, there's a lot of things going on, maybe deception, you know, there's a lot of stuff. And I mean, this is, we could do this with every planet. And you know, this is the thing, is we start to study the planets. We start to understand where their place is in the chart. Yeah. So the descendant, this is the opposite to the ascendant, okay? So these are the sorts of people that you attract and draw to yourself. These are the kind of relationships that you actually seek and what you actually seek in relationships. Now, this is the funny story that I've been going to tell you about my ascendant and descendant. So, of course, I have a Libran ascendant and I have a Aries descendant. For me, I've always found a little bit rubbing up the wrong way with Aries sun signs, okay? I've known a few Mars Aries people as well. It's the same sort of thing. But the Aries sort of energy, which is what? Is self. You know, we know Aries energy. So I've found, well, it's very opposite to Taurus energy as well. And I always sort of thought that it was, and this is going back a long time ago, before I really knew my chart. Like I said, I've been into astrology since I was 9, but, you know, I haven't known my chart since I was 9. So I've known my chart since my early 20s, but know it even deeper, you know, since obviously doing more and just being who I am and growing with it and obsessing over it and reading it and studying it and now teaching it and hundreds of clients with it. But ultimately, I always just felt that it was because my little theory and analogy, which I may or may not have shared with you, is that the sign before and after your sign, it's like, can be a little bit blind. Okay, there's nothing really in common, but they're neighbours. Okay, so it's like my neighbour's over there and my neighbour's over there, and I'm in the middle. So I'm the Taurus, they're the Aries, they're the Gemini. We're there for each other, but we sort of don't really have much in common. They're over there, you know, maybe eating McDonald's every day, and they're over there partying and drinking every day. Look, no, that's not actually what's happening, but you know what I mean. And then I'm over here meditating every day. That also doesn't happen. So the thing is that, but so see the duality, right? Very, very different. But we're neighbours. We're next to each other. And if I needed help, guess what? I could go to them. I could go to an Aries or a Gemini, and they'd be the first to help me out, probably more so than anyone else, because your neighbours are always there for you, right? So who are your neighbours in your sun sign? You know, is it Sag and, you know, are you a Capricorn and it's Sag and Aquarius? Are they your neighbours? And see, Joel completely debunked it for me because he said that he gets along really well with both of them. But Joel's the most tolerant person in the world. So good on him. And I love him for that. And he's taught me tolerance. But me, I'm very patient, but pretty intolerant of garbage and shit and small talk and freaking racism or whatever else. I'm intolerant of a lot of shit, right? So, and he's intolerant of bad stuff too, don't get me wrong, but he's tolerant in general. His nature is tolerant. So when I came up with this theory, he's like, oh, I get along with Aquarius and Sag. I'm like, okay, you get along with everyone, you're the wrong person to talk to. Let's go back to my story. I've always found Aries they're Aries, Mars, I'm Taurus, Venus, opposite planets. One takes action, is driven, it's hard and aggressive and blah. And a Taurus is like, hey man, just want to eat and have sex. Like, just chill out. Don't tell me what to do. Aries likes to tell people what to do. Do this, do that, come here at this time, la, 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 la. Fire signs are like that. And I'm always like, do not tell me what to do. And it makes me cranky because I don't go around telling other people what to do. And then, so anyway, so the fire that sort of stuff. But hello, look at what I've got, an Aries descendant. What am I attracting? Those sorts of people. Why? Because it's a projection. It's a projection of wherever that is for me that I am not allowing it to be. So earlier on, and this is a long time ago where I've got a lot of Aries friends now and a lot of fire signs friends, but I've always attracted sort of very fiery people. Another reason for this is I have Mars in my 7th house. Now, who is the ruler of Mars? Aries. So I actually even then have the Aries planet in the house of relationships. So this is telling me who I attract into my life. So whilst my Mars is actually in the sign of Taurus, my descendant is Aries, which starts off my 7th house, okay? Because you will notice that, houses will go over too. Like you will have your descendant in. So I have Aries taking up a little bit of my 6th house, then my descendant is Aries and a little bit of my 7th house. And then I have my Mars in Taurus in my 7th house, but then my 8th house is ruled by Taurus where I have a lot of other of my Taurian planets and so on and so forth. It's not always going to be exactly, right? We're looking at a whole wheel, 360 degrees, 12 signs, 30 degrees each, things overlap. Going on our longitude and latitude, we use the Placidus. This is the Placidus house system that we use. Yes, there are other house systems, okay? There are house systems that are called equal and lots of other ones. And the equal house system is very, very different to the Placidus house system. It starts every house at 0 degrees, 0 and 30, 0 and 30, 0 and 30. So there's no overlapping. And there is a reason to all of that stuff. And look, I don't want to go into traditional astrology and house systems here, but I do want to let you know, like this is just what's known, right? We use Placidus because based on longitude and latitude is the most accurate, and I've looked into both of them many times, and for me Placidus is always the one. Okay, so anyway, so you will notice that one sign can go between 2 houses. Okay, so for me I've got my Mars in Taurus, but Mars is ruled by Aries in my 7th house, and I have an Aries descendant. Now Aries has always rubbed me up the wrong way. Why? Because I was projecting that. Because the 7th house, as you know from last week, is the mirror. It's the pure mirror, what you're reflecting back, okay? And it's what you're attracting. It's your descendant. It's what you are attracting into your life. And it's on some level what you want. It's the sort of relationship you want. It's the sort of marriage you want. So yeah, Mars in my 7th house shows me I actually want a man who's strong. And I've been out with men who are a bit, sooky, and I'm just not into that. Like, I'm a bit like, oh, come and sit next to me, and oh, I need you, I need you, I need you. No, you don't. I'm independent. I don't want that. So, of course, here I am, my husband's very independent and not needy at all because he's a fucking Capricorn. So the thing is that I've attracted that, but also my husband has an Aries moon. So I've actually attracted what I was rejecting for so long until I really become aware of it and accepted that part of myself, accepted my own selfishness, accepted the things that I found rubbed up against me the wrong way with the Aries, okay? Because that's my descendant. I'm going to attract that. And now, some of my best friends are Aries and fire signs. And what I actually love about them the most is that they say something and then it's over with. Whereas for me, with other friends or earth signs, or especially water signs, it's like you say something and then they'll hold on to that for 10 years. Oh, but you said this 10 years ago. And I mean, I've got a water moon, but I'm not typically, I can remember everything, but what it's done is it's taught me to just release it as well. And I really love that. That's been a really wonderful lesson for me. So this is where we've got to, from me and a few of my other astrologer friends talk, that some people find their descending sign quite difficult. So maybe, and it's not, so it just happens to be that Aries is my neighbor for Taurus, so that's where I put it together. But for you, it might not be your neighbor, as in your descendant isn't the sign that's next to your sun sign, right? But how do you work with that sign? So these are the sort of things that you want to start to discover and uncover because, after this week, your astrology wings are free, my darlings. They're free. I want you to go and soar and learn more and discover more about yourself and how this works out for you. So have a look at your descending sign, and when you attract those sorts of people into your life, whether it's just the sign or the quality or the element, because, you know, Aries isn't just Aries. Aries is also a fire sign, and it's also a cardinal element, right? And when you're attracting those sorts of people, how do you feel? Do you feel at home with them, or is it something you sort of like, they're a bit sandpaperish to you? So ask yourself those questions. Like, that's my little Aries story that I've been wanting to share, because it's hilarious. It's in my chart. I was always going to attract those people, yeah? And then I marry a guy with an Aries moon. So it's, you know, it's crazy. It's also your attitude to partnership. So, of course, you know, then I had to accept in myself that I've been very fiery and forward in my friendships and relationships, because relationships are really important to me. You know, Mars is progression and moving forward. And although it's in Taurus, Taurus is loyal, right? So I'm a very, very loyal friend. And I take my friendships very seriously. So, of course, there's that element of fire, and that can drive people away too. So I had to actually do all of that inner work with myself to understand my Aries descendant and how I was, yes, aware of it, but not actually utilizing it, not mastering it. I was letting it obey me. Yeah, I was obeying it, and I was being the fool and, you know, obeying it. You know what I mean? It's also, like I said, it's also those repressed, so that descendant, similar, you're seeing the theme here, right? The angular houses are the similar themes to the entire house, okay? That's what it is, but I just wanted to really point these guys out to you because they're very important. So yes, this descendant is repressed behaviours. It's what you actually project onto people, all that sort of stuff that I just shared. And that's why I shared that story. I want you to see if that's come up for you in your life, or maybe it hasn't. Maybe you love your descending sign, but you don't like your ascending sign. So then you're going to want to play with that. Maybe you meet people who are your ascendant. So that's actually how you're seen. So usually no matter what your sun sign is people will pick up on your ascending sign. Say you have a Scorpio sun, but you have a Leo ascendant. People will see you as very Leonian. And I've got a friend who's a Leo sun, but she's got a Taurus moon. Does she have a Taurus ascendant as well? I can't remember. But she does not seem like a Leo at all. Her Leo sun is so overridden with that beautiful Taurus moon, but also her ascendant, which I actually think might be Scorpio. Now I'm thinking, I've got millions of charts in my head, but yeah, I think it is. And yeah, she doesn't seem like that. She just doesn't seem like that Leonian that I'm used to, right? And that we're all used to, because it's a bit of a, you know, it's a bit of a thing. Like, there's a bit of a generalization. But the thing is that's where we uncover the rest of the layers to the chart, is through the ascendant and the moon. Yeah. So yes, I shared all of that because it's experiential. I can say, oh, the descendant is these 5 things and move on, but you want to hear like the juice, right? Like this is how you start to have a relationship with your chart. That is what this workshop is about, having a relationship with your chart. I'm actually going to write that because that's really good for all my next stuff. Relationship with your chart, even though I've probably said that a million times, but you know, I just like that because that's what it is. It's about having a relationship with your chart. Your descendant is who you attract. It's who you draw to yourself. It's like a magnet. And it's the formation of your adult relationships. We're going to move to the top of the chart now, your midheaven or your medium Koli. So it's opposite to the Imam Koli, isn't it? So the medium Koli, which is called midheaven or just the MC. I just say ICMC, ascendant, descendant, easier. So this is the 12 o'clock point. This is here, right at the top of the chart, yeah? That is very visible. So it's the most visible part of your chart. So 12 noon, the sun's right above us, right? Everything is visible, isn't it? And this is what starts the 10th house off. So we're looking at what the 10th house means. What does the 10th house mean? It's ruled by Capricorn traditionally. It's success and ambition and money and your career, right? But yours might be Taurus. Yours might be Gemini. Yours might be Pisces. So someone with a Pisces midheaven would show me that their job is more spiritual. They might be an artist or a musician. So Pisces and Neptune, very, very musical and artistic, yeah. So and flowing, yeah, free. So to have Neptune on your MC, or to even have your MC ruled by Pisces, it means that your career house which doesn't change because the 10th house always is the career house, it means that the flavor then comes from the Pisces energy. So someone with a Pisces 10th house and a Pisces midheaven would more be inclined to not wanting to do a sit-down corporate job. Like they would find that probably quite debilitating. Of course, depending what sign it's in, but in general, you're looking at a Pisces needs freedom, but in a flowing way. They need gentleness. They need to be able to imagine and dream and bring their idealistic views into whatever they're doing. Some people are teachers, but they're creative teachers, or some people are singers, or some people, they're artists and they make beautiful things with their hands, So this is where the flavor of those things come in, Your MC is your vision of self-realize. It's who you want to be. It's like the culmination of that is where the top is, the top of your chart. That is who you are becoming. It's the culmination of absolutely everything, all your successions before and like the successions, like what you've been working on beforehand to meet and to rise to the 10th house. That's the sort of person that you are becoming. That's your visible self. That's what people see. So in a different way to the ascendant, but you can see how the ascendant and the midheaven are similar because they're both about being visible, aren't they? The first house is self, but it's more what you look like as well. We're forgetting that, I think. The first house is also what you look like. So someone with that real strong Uranian or Aquarian energy, either on the ascendant or with Uranus conjunct the ascendant, they're going to change their style all the time. Like my sister-in-law, she is an Aquarian, but she has Uranus in her first house. And she's the girl whose hair's different all the time. So 1 minute she's got like a bob and it's blunt and it's blonde. And 2 months later I see her and it's long and it's black. I'm like, how did it even grow that much? Like my hair takes like 1,000,000 years to grow 3 mil. And I'm just like, friggin' hell. Like she just changes her hair like I change my knickers, and she does. And it looks always amazing. So she's got that real eccentricity. So she changes her look all the time. Because why? Uranus is in the first house. Imagine Uranus in the 10th house. It's not so much about changing your look, but it's maybe changing the way you're perceived. It's changing your careers. It's changing your goals, changing your ambitions. And so, and just a little bit of a tidbit here is that Uranus is the planet of astrology. So if you have Uranus in the 10th house, you can make astrology your career. Depending on other things in the chart, of course. Not everyone's going to be astrologer with Uranus in the 10th, but Uranus in the 10th does depict that you can become an astrologer, that you will, because we know that astrology has so many layers and that people sort of dive in, they put their foot in, it gets a bit too hard, they don't understand their chart and they just think it's too hard. But as you're learning, it's actually quite easy once you understand the basics. But the thing is that there's certain aspects in the chart that can depict someone who becomes an astrologer. And I mean, in all the astrology groups, I mean, this question always comes up and there's certain things. It's like if you've got this in this or that in this or this conjunct this or this trine this, there's like a whole list and there's heaps of them that would depict being an astrologer. But Uranus in the 10th can depict that because the 10th is career, so you can make astrology your career. The MC is also your need for public recognition, community and social status. It's your direction in life. It's your career, guys. It's your clue of ambitions and goals. And like I just shared about having a Pisces MC, if you're feeling like, I don't know what I'm here to do, like Stephen Forrest says it best, there is no astrology chart or no astrologer that you can go to and go, tell me who I'm going to be, tell me what my career will be, and, then I can be happy. Tell me when I'll get married and how many kids. That's not how it works. You can't look at someone's chart and go, okay, so this would, hairdresser, tick, you can go now and be free. Oh, you astrologer, tick, you barista, tick. It doesn't work like that. There's not just one career for certain things. You look for clues, and then you actually, by activating your chart and living your chart, and nodes are a huge thing. I mean, you've got to know your nodes and your Chiron. I mean, you do. And I know that, I know that I've got a module 2 that's that. And I know that in good time, if you feel to do that, you will. And if not, you can go and learn, right? But the thing is that the nodes are your destiny and Chiron's your wound. So you want to uncover how to discover more about your destiny and your purpose, and also how to unlock things in your chart, like and understand your wounds, yeah? But the biggest thing is that, yeah, there's not just one specific career, it's just not like, oh, that person will be a teacher, that person will be an accountant, that person will be a hairdresser. Like, no, that's not going to happen. And I love when Stephen Forrest says it because he is an amazing astrologer. And for him to say that even he can't look at a chart and go, well, I know what your career will be, just makes me feel great because I can tell you now, most of my readings are about career and love. And it's like, look, those houses aren't being activated right now, but this is happening here and that's happening there, and you've got a skill in this and you've got a passion for this. So you've got to start bringing your chart to life, having that relationship with your chart, and then everything will take care of itself. But in the interim, you can, of course, look for clues. The MC is a clue to your career and your ambition. The second house, well, that's the finance house, and that's also ways that you can make money. The sixth house, it's work. The eighth house is also business as well and other people's money. So there's a few houses that you can start to look at and play at. And if you've got nothing in those houses, that doesn't matter either. You could probably still be a millionaire with nothing in those houses because other things are being activated and those things come through. I'm going to talk about empty houses in a minute. So that's also something. Don't get set that, you know, I have to be one thing and my chart should tell me what I'm going to be, because it just won't. But like I said, the midheaven is clues to your ambitions and goals. And I just gave that example. If you have a Pisces midheaven, like that is a clue that, yeah, you probably will feel really uncomfortable in a really corporate, rigid situation. For you, it might be more about being flowing and artistic or musical, being a music teacher maybe. It is what's seen, of course, because it's the top of the chart. It's the visible self. It's how you also desire to be seen. Look, my MC is Cancer, so I'm nurturing. I'm a matriarch, and I've got my moon in my 10th house. You know, if you've got an illuminary in your 10th house, it can really, you know, mean that career is strong for you, and that's a really big part of your life. Some people, career isn't a thing. Let's be honest. Not everyone is here to have a career. Some people are happy to work and go, oh, no, I'm happy, you know, owning a coffee shop. Is that a career? Well, I don't know. Is it? I don't know. Let's redefine success. Maybe it is a career. But some people actually aren't here to go, well, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to go to uni and become this. Or, you know, that's not what it's about. It's about fulfilling your own purpose and fulfilling your own destiny. And looking at that 10th house and looking at that midheaven can really help, you know. Like I have a client who I've been seeing for a few years, and as soon as I looked at her chart, and again, I'm an intuitive astrologer too, so, you know, I might say something and then I'll contradict myself and do something different because I'm intuitive. If I look at a chart and I see something, I'm going to say it, right? And as soon as I seen her chart, I was like, oh, you'll be a millionaire. She's got 5 planets in her career house, all opposite her moon, her Aries moon, driven to make this happen. And look, she's well on her way. She has an incredible business with 140,000 followers on Instagram. She's created her own product. Her business name is Sweet Sticks if you want to go and check her out. She's my client. She's been a mentoring client of mine for a few years, so about 4 years now. And I've watched this grow, but as soon as I seen her chart, I knew, because all those planets in the 10th house. But does that mean that someone else with no planets in the 10th house can't be moved? Of course not. I mean, I'm very successful and I've got 1 planet in my 10th house. So, and that's the thing, is we can't be so rigid and stuck, that we have to be malleable as well, because each case is unique and plays out in a different way. But this is, you know, this is what this is all based around, okay? So your midheaven is also your public achievements. So ultimately, for someone to have an illuminary in the 10th house, which is your sun or moon, that's an illuminary, or a lot of planets, they will be in the public in some way, shape or form. That's usually what happens, yeah? So that is the angles. Of course, I could talk about the angles for another hour, but I won't, because it's been an hour, and I think that that's enough. Let's talk about the big 3, okay? So I've also got another little handout, and this one doesn't have a reference, but I'm pretty sure it's still Kim, because I actually save a lot of her stuff, because, yeah, she just does like really good little visuals like this, and they're just like good little handouts, okay? So this is the sun, moon, and rising. These are our big 3, okay? Let's have a little chat about these guys. Now, the sun, moon, and rising are very important. I've just got like a whole nother lot of notes here. I'm just making sure that I'm on track. Look at me go. Week 6. Oh, my goodness. So sad. But it's great too, because now you get to spread those wings and fly. Okay. So the big 3, the ascendant, it's the front door of who you are. Your sun is your driver and your moon is your feelings, yeah? Your moon is your innermost self. They're the 3 most prominent energies we live out every day. And so I've got, you know, I've got little bits and pieces that I wrote in your notes. We must master our sun. We must study it, dive deep into it, the house, its sign, and the aspects it makes. Yes, we're not talking aspects, but you're going to know, you know, if things are close to your sun or not, and then other planets might be talking to it. These are of great significance. Liz Green says, the sun sign is the heart of a human being, the heart of a human being. But how many of us truly know our hearts? And that is why the ascendant can mask the sun. The sun sign and its full expression takes courage. We must understand the sun sign. The house that our sun is in is very important because that is where, remember, the house is the where we are doing all of this, okay? Where we are expressing it. The sign is the how we are expressing it, and the planet is the what. So the sun is the what, it's the personality. Well, you know, the ascendant's the personality, it's the front door. But then the sun is like our ego, it's our identity. So that is the what, it's our identity. And how is it being expressed? Oh, in Taurus. Oh, okay, so that's its archetype. My sun is in Taurus. But where is it being expressed? It's being expressed in the 8th house. So very deep, very mysterious, very mystical. I'm all about self-transformation. I'm all about personal regeneration. I'm about rebirth. I'm about shamanism. Like this is my where, how, and what, yeah, of the sign, the planet, and the house. Yes? So, yes, the sun sign is the heart of a human being, and how many of us truly know our heart? That is why it is imperative for us to know our sun sign. Your moon, you must feel this. You must understand its nuances, the way you manipulate, the way you emotionally relate, the way you control, nurture, mother. If it's a cold moon, a jealous moon, a deep moon, to know your moon is to know your soul. Look at her sign, again, her house. And again, is she making any aspects? Are any planets close to her, or is she talking to any other planets? That can help you to understand her and what's impacting her, yeah? Get to know her shadow, her unconscious ways, her own language, and the way she speaks to you. Feel her and hear her. I mean, at the end of the day, the moon is always dark until the sun shines on it. So without the sun, the moon doesn't get full, or we can't see her in her fullness. So we've learned so much about the moon. And now in this big three, we're putting those three together. Our sun, our moon, and our ascendant are our everyday life. They're our everyday beingness. It's how we present ourselves. It's how we feel every day. It's how we interact every day. It's our identity every day. So mastering the sun sign is honestly really getting to know that sun sign. Whatever house your sun is in, get to know that house like it's the back of your hand. So if I do say, what's that house about? You've got a myriad of things, and you then go, hey, how does this play out for me? So how does my sun sign express itself in Taurus in the 8th house? And write some of your own sort of notes around that. This is where you want to start to gather up your own journals, like me and my millions of journals. I'm like constantly writing new things. Oh, you know, I've listened to another webinar or something. Oh, that's an interesting, fascinating little nugget of gold. And I can see how that plays out here, there, and blah, 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 right? It's this gathering. I mean, and I've got Mercury and Gemini. So I love gathering and collecting information and knowledge and wisdom and then sharing it with people, right? That's just what I love to do. It's what I've always done. It's just who I am. So the big three. We must master our sun sign, dive deep into it. And this is this great significance part of our sun sign is we must dive into the sun sign. We mustn't try and be just our ascendant or just our sun, you know, and if you've got the triple threat, if your sun, moon, and our ascendant are all in the same sign, this is quite a journey for you here. You really, really are that sign, aren't you? Like Bjork, having all three of them in Scorpio. She's very much Scorpio. Also with the sun, I feel like when it comes to it's our heart and how many people really know our heart, I also feel like people rarely feel like who they are. Hey, like a lot of people feel like they can't be themselves, and that has a lot to do with the sun sign. It also has a lot to do with the moon as well, because the ascendant can mask anything, because it's easy for us to drop into our ascendant, drop into our ascendant and come across like that, right? That's easy because it's our ascending sign. But the sun sign is who we are. And I feel like so many people mask who they are, you know, whether it's injecting things or taking things out or putting things in or masking things. They're not accepting themselves. And I think that to truly know your chart is to truly know yourself. And then you are able to go out into the world with this sense of, a strong sense of identity. And not that old school thing is, oh, this is just who I am, take me as I am. It's like, well, no, that's not it. Because if you've got a million problems in your life, you're the common denominator, you're the asshole. Like, it's not just accept me for who I am, right? It's you actually standing as a pillar with a strong self-identity. And that means calling yourself out on that shit. You know, it means knowing when you fucked up. It means knowing when you said something so out of alignment because you're in a bad mood and you just wanted to hurt someone. It means you know when you're being defensive or when you're being attackive, and it knows when you're not, right? This is the true sense of a strong sense of identity, okay? And I think that most of that comes from, well, not most, all of it is in your chart. But without accessing that and knowing it, it's hard to sort of get there. It's like, you know, driving on a road at nighttime, no lights on, in the dark with your eyes closed. I mean, who wants to do that? I don't. I want to be prepared and aware, and I live my life prepared and aware. That's how I live every single day. So I don't ever have those moments, right? I'm always prepared, and if something shakes outside of me and it's unexpected, well, I'm prepared for that because I have a deep inner well of security and balance and peace and resources on which I will pull from, right? So for me, it's about opening the eyes to the steering wheel of your life, holding onto the wheel and turning the lights on. And yeah, you might not see what's around the corner, but it's still going to be around the corner. It just means that you can navigate that better with awareness. So diving into who you are and then being able to have the courage to just come out into the world and be that, it's exactly that, courage. And I think that when you really start to understand your chart and bring it to life and activate it, it gets easier. That's how I see it. I've watched so many people I've given readings to change so much just from one session, because all of a sudden it's like they've got permission to be who they are. And, you know, and I've said this time and time again, I've never not been that. I don't know how to be, I'm not good at anything other than just being who I am. It's not something I've ever suppressed. And even my Libra mask, you know, it's not something I know about my Libran ascendant. So I know when I'm coming across Libran or whatever, if I'm using that, you know, if I'm using that to masquerade this, you know, very strong Taurian archetype, I have my very, very deep Cancer moon, right? So I understand all of these elements, you know, and I invite them all into my life equally. It's just the awareness. So mastering the chart means mastering the self, mastering the universe, and being able to go out and share who you are fully. Okay, so that's the sun. You know, that's sort of, yeah, I'm just reading my notes and I've just written people can't feel like they've been themselves because they don't feel like they can purely live themselves. Like being yourself fully is very difficult. And I just wrote here, that's why the chart as a tool of self-mastery is so dang important. Yes, it is. The moon, like I said, it's just about understanding her, having a relationship with her. It's all awareness. There's no good moon or bad moon. Yes, the signs have their detriment and fall and dignity and exhalation. They do. They are going to be more easily expressed in some signs. But it doesn't mean that if it's in a sign that's not, what it actually invites you to do is have a real relationship with the moon, her, our grandmother, up in the sky at nighttime or in the daytime. I seen her this morning. She was just magical out with the blue clouds, the blue sky and the clouds this morning. I love when the moon's out in the morning. It's really, it always makes me feel really beautiful for the day. The moon is about rhythm, okay? So you want to develop your own natural rhythm with your own moon sign. Where is she in your chart? What does that house represent? And as we can see, look at this here. Our big three are the two luminaries, aren't they? They're the sun and the moon. That is why they are the big three. And that ascendant is the way we are. That is our front door. That is the front door of my house is my Libra. Okay, but it's not until you probably get right up and maybe into my bedroom or, you know, that you find the Cancer, yeah, the Cancerian qualities. So you want to dive deep into her and get to know her and how you can work with her. You know, if it's an air moon, you know, that's a colder moon. That's a more difficult moon. It can mean less emotional. So how does that play out for you? You know, are you able to bring more emotion in or just sit with something? Because an air moon wants to intellectualize, don't they? An air moon will figure everything out in their head before they even drop into their heart. So I invite the air moons to, before they rationalize everything on how they're feeling or how they think they should feel or going over the story or that's played out, so they're going to think about this for 2 weeks because that happened 2 weeks ago. Instead of thinking all the time, just drop into the heart. It's not going to change your moon sign. If your moon sign's an air sign, it's an air sign. But the thing is that you develop a deeper relationship with it. And Linda Goodman says that even love can conquer, you know, the karma of placements and planets and stuff. And I totally believe that. I don't believe that anyone's doomed with any placement, anyone's doomed with any planet in any sign. That's just not right. I invite the awareness to come into the heart with all of this, because if anything's too in the head, it's not coming from the heart, it's coming from the ego mind, which we need sometimes. But I spend most of my time hanging out in this area. You know, that's where I lead from. My heart leads. So if you do have an air moon, even a fire moon, you know, those moons, you know, they're not going, yay, I love being here. But how can you bring that more into your world? You know, I know I've had a few clients recently that they're very aware of maybe their cold ways, and they've actually said, I don't actually want to be like that anymore. Like, great. There's the first step to change is awareness. So for them, it's about going, I usually go into thinking mode here, yeah, or a fire moon. I'd usually react and fire my mouth off, right? And then regret it later and say sorry later, which is often what fire moons do, especially an Aries moon, right? But I've watched my man change. Like his Aries moon, it's developed and it's grown and he understands it now. He's able to sit with it instead of just Aries moon. You know, is he sometimes reactive? Of course, he's still got an Aries moon. It doesn't go away, but there's this awareness and there's this stillness, and especially with an air moon. I mean, it's instead of rationalizing your feelings, instead of thinking you feel a certain way, go, hey, this is me doing that. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to go and not think about this. I'm just going to feel about this, because you still have the capability to do that. So that's what I mean with going into your moon, finding your rhythm. Where are you in alignment or out of alignment with your own moon? Because these are the three that we deal with every single day. Yeah, it's pretty cool, yeah. I love the big three. Okay, so now we're gonna run over that away. I don't need that anymore. We are going to run over the quadrants of the houses and a couple of other little things that are just like nice little tidbits to know. And then we are going to wrap up our 6 weeks. At the back of your notes, you actually have a quiz. I'll just chat about that quickly now. So I've actually written some questions for you to go through and see if you can answer them, okay? So on our last live call, I'll tap in and tune in about that and see how those went for you. So they're just questions. So they're just basic questions and basic getting to understand the language. It's sort of like we've been learning French. I'd go, how do you say hello? Yeah, you say bonjour. And then what? And so what's good night? Bonsoir. I'm learning a little bit of French because we're going to France in June 2019. So yes, I'm learning a little bit of French. So that's sort of what it's about. So it's not a test. It's just a quiz to go, yeah, what have you learned? You know, do you remember qualities? Do you remember elements? Because remember, it's so easy to get caught up in all the excitement and to overcomplicate things that we forget, hey, we've forgotten to take it back to basics and go, right, what element is strong for me here? What am I dominant in? You know, where are all my planets? Yeah, where is all of these things? So, you know, how does my sun, moon, and what are my big three? Do I know my big three off by heart? You know, these are the things. Yeah, what are my luminaries? You know, what am I this? What are my angular houses? What quality are my angular houses? So these are the things you want to start to get fluent in, is what I would say. Yeah, pretty much this first 6 weeks is my strongest suggestion is, until you're fluent with all of this, there's no need to go further. Of course, yes, I know that there's chiron in the nodes, and of course adding that, I don't think that chiron in the nodes are advanced. They're just not for module 1. Yeah, it's because it's a whole nother 6 weeks to take in those guys with, and then with transits as well. But we can't understand transits if we don't understand the second house in Jupiter, can we? It doesn't make any sense to go into something that you don't have a full solid foundation. So the thing is that don't lose, don't lose what's in front of you and the vision and this solid foundation for all the bigger and better, more fancy stuff that seems to be luring you, because astrology is one big rabbit hole, and it's fun to get lost in here, trust me, and you will love it, and I encourage that. I'm certainly not telling you what to do. I'm just guiding you to go, look, it's like me trying to learn all this other stuff in French when I don't even have the bare minimum words. Why would I want to go that far? Why would I want to create something that I love on a foundation of sand where I'm just going to crumble anyway? And I'm not going to be able to have just a normal conversation because I've learned how to say perpendicular or something like that, right? So the thing is that we want to, I would say, master this 6 weeks. I would say learn the language, quiz yourself. Can you answer all those questions and they all come really easily, or are you still sort of going over your notes? And either way is perfect, right? But just this 6 weeks is such a concrete, solid bones of astrology. So I just encourage you and invite you and urge you to stick with this 6 weeks. So now let's have a little bit of a look of where most of the planets are, empty houses and stelliums, and then we're going to wrap up. So you've got a little chart here with showing you the quadrants, okay? So obviously the chart is then still cut into 2 halves, isn't it? So let's look at the cross, which is our angular houses, isn't it? So the pink, we still have some on the left or the right-hand side, and then some on the top or some on the bottom, okay? So this is how we're looking at the chart, okay? So the chart will have planets in certain parts. So if you have most of your planets in the top part of your chart, this is more of an interaction with the world. These people are more public arena focused. They make their mark on the world. They maybe work in the public eye. They're in the public eye, even if it wasn't by chance, even if it wasn't by choice, it was by not chance, it was by chart. Yes, not chance, by chart. I need to write that too. Nothing is by chance. Not by chance, by chart. Oh yeah, that is good. Having all these downloads this morning, magic. Most of the planets in the top half relate are the relationship to society and the world in general. So what I say is that most planets at the top house, they're visible. If we think about it, from the descendant to the ascendant, it's the 7th house through to the 12th house. What do those houses represent? Let's get back to basics. It's relationship with other people. It's other people's resources. It's God, philosophy, travel, career, friends, hopes, wishes. Yeah, so it's all outer world stuff. And then from the ascendant to the descendant is all the stuff that's underneath. It's all the physical stuff. It's sort of like the lower chakras and the higher chakras. Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate on some level. It's like everything's more seen and visible, and then the bottom is more grounded and physical. Yeah, so visible and physical. So even more, the top 6 houses, so the top half of the chart are even, I wouldn't say more spiritual, but of course, what have we got there? We've got like the occult, and we've got the mysterious, and we've got ideals and hopes, we've got dreams, we've got the subconscious, we've got all this Pisces, Scorpio stuff going on with the latter part of the zodiac, okay? So, of course, they're more, there's more interest and fascination, whereas stuff that's mostly on the bottom, so planets mostly on the bottom, are more personal identity, self-development are more of their attention. Focusing on a stable home, family, more than public achievements. Doesn't mean that you might not be in that, but you might have everything down the bottom and be Oprah. I mean, that's actually not her chart, but imagine, right? It can still happen. It doesn't mean that, but again, maybe you pushed more for that to happen, right? Maybe you did, I've got a very stable family home, and I've got hardly anything on the bottom half of my chart, but see how it just come naturally? It wasn't something that I was really aiming for. because most of my planets are up the top, and I've always been on stage. I've always been in the public eye. But I've never forced it. You know, this is where we start to look at our charts, and we're not trying to force a square peg into a round hole, which so many people do. You know, they think they want to be something, or they think because someone else is doing it, well, they need to do it now. And, oh, you know, and especially in this spiritual entertainment industry, you know, people go to one thing, do one workshop, and then all of a sudden they want to teach it. And it's like, hang on a minute. It's about experience here, and it might not be even in your chart to go and teach that. And that's where a lot of people's passions become their problems, because they're not paying the bills. Because everyone just thinks that, oh, I've done one thing and now I can go and make money from that. Well, no, you know, sometimes there's, and my example for this is I had a client years ago, most of her planets were on the bottom, and she'd done, you know, numerous crystal workshops and retreats and all these sorts of things. And each time she tried to make money from it, it would just never happen. No one would ever come. She was always broke. Nothing would ever happen. And then she'd come to me and we looked at her chart, and I told her, most of your planets are at the bottom. Personal identity and self-development. Focus on home, family, more than public achievements. Physical, material, and emotional security is important. And all of a sudden she went, oh, so I'm just doing all of this stuff to develop myself. I don't need to go and teach it or try and make money from it. And I said, exactly. And now she's, you know, qualified in homeopathy, and she's, you know, she's having her homeopathy clients, and she's doing really well. But she took that pressure off herself to know that she doesn't have to go out and, you know, obviously doing homeopathy is different than, you know, having to teach Reiki circles and stuff like that every 5 minutes. But the thing is that that's what, you know, that's what happens is we look to our chart and we can go, right, I've been putting a square peg into a round hole for 10 years, you know, this isn't for me. I'm actually really meant to keep doing what I'm doing, and this is working, you know. But of course, there's nuances and there's different situations. I'm not saying this is the be all and end all, but this is the guideline of understanding the chart. And for me, it's played out time and time again with people, is that all of a sudden they can relax. And it's happened in my chart and most charts, you know. Ultimately, that top half is public and that bottom half is, it's, you know, what's the houses of the bottom half? The first house, self, money, possessions, communication, study, learning, home, security, fun, children, and work and health. They're all not mundane, but they're all the very physical things. And then the top half are the more esoteric-y, externally sorts of things. We're learning from the world now, and that's actually, when we're born, that's what we actually do. We spend this time, and then all of a sudden we learn this, and we keep doing the cycles, and that's sort of more transit stuff, but that's what happens, right? So we've got to know the inner to know the outer, and we've got to know the outer to know the inner. So we must know our whole chart, but we look at where a majority of stuff is, and we can sort of see what's happening. We can see what's playing out for that person. You know, the good saying around planets in the top and bottom half are, people with planets in the bottom half work to live, and people with the planets in the top live to work. So you can see the difference in that already, can't you? Work to live. So yeah, they go to work and then they pay their bills, they work to live. So their money becomes, you know, I hear heaps of people saying it. Oh, you know, work's work, you know, got to work to pay the bills. I mean, I've never said that in my entire life, nor would I, because that's not how I vision work. I'm someone with all of my planets at the top. I live to work. So for me, my living is work, and I love it. Does it mean that you can't, you know, having everything down the bottom doesn't mean that you can't love your job or love your life or career? Of course not. Doesn't mean that you might not be famous? Of course not either. That doesn't mean, there's a million different things that can go on in the chart at different times. But the thing is the ultimate thing is that me and my husband, we've got the opposite. Of course, most of his are down the bottom. And what does he do? Work to live, and not in a negative way, but he is responsible. He is reliant. Like, this is what he does. And what I do is I live to work. You know, there's a perfect balance for us. And, you know, that's something that we've uncovered and discovered over time in our relationship as well. But the thing is that, you know, it's all about knowing the chart and understanding where most of the energy is. Yeah. And I think that that little saying of live to work and work to live, you can feel the difference in that. So let's look at most of the planets on the left-hand side of the chart, which is the eastern side of the chart, of course, as you know. You look here, and this is where the sun is rising, yeah? And, of course, the west is where the sun sets. So see how cool that is, how it all just syncs up? So good. That's why I really wanted to add that one in, because it's a really cool little handout. So if most of your, let me just have a quick drink. We're nearly ready to wrap up. if most of your planets are in the eastern side, which is the left, that's someone who's predominantly independent. It's the self side of the chart, of course, because what does it have there? The first house, doesn't it? It's the self side of the chart. It's self-directed, primarily relies on the self. Their initiative, their self-defining attitude to create their own life. That's what they do. They create their own reality. They forge ahead. Okay, whereas if most of the planets are on the western side, which is the right side of the chart, this is the others side of the chart. Look what we've got. We've got relationships there, and we've got the 8th house. We've got the 5th house there, which is about romance and children. So it's the others side. So when I'm sharing this, we try and match everything up. We want to see, well, yeah, what houses are in the eastern and what houses are in the western, what are on the top, what are on the bottom, what are seen, what are unseen. Yeah. So mostly on the western is others. They are more receptive than initiative. They're others orientated. They learn primarily through their experiences with other people, with interacting with other people. Whereas eastern side, left-hand side, they're more self. They're more, I can do it myself. I'll do it myself. I think mine are pretty balanced. I think I'm like 5 and 5, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm 5 and 5. So you can be 5 and 5. It's just very balanced. Whereas I know some people who are like 10 on one side or 10 on the other side, 10 at the top or 10 at the bottom. It's quite amazing to see. Yes, so that western side is others, learning about the self through relationships, considers the impact on others in decisions, because it's all about other people, self, others. Yeah. So let's talk about stelliums. So a stellium is 3. So there's 2 different stelliums. Okay. That I talk about. I think some other astrologers talk about it too. So I talk about a sign stellium and then a house stellium. Now, a stellium in general is 3 planets in one sign or in one house. Okay, so it means a condensed amount of energy. That's all it means, is that a stellium is all of that energy in that one sign. So for me, these are my stelliums that I have, okay? I have a Libra stellium. I have a Libra stellium. I have 3 planets in Libra over 2 houses. I have my ascendant in Libra. Not that that's a part of it, but I have 3 planets in Libra. So it's a Libra stellium, okay? So it's a sign stellium. I also have a Taurus stellium because I have Mars. I include Chiron, my Sun, and my Venus. So 4 guys in Taurus. I have a Taurus stellium, but then I have a house stellium. I have an 8th house stellium because I have Chiron, my Sun, Venus, who are all in Taurus, but then I also have Mercury, who is in Gemini, in my 8th house. So I have 4 guys in my 8th house, okay? So a stellium of energy means a condensed amount of energy, like a lot of focus. It adds so much to the personality and so much to the way that person is, because there is a lot of energy there. So you know me, you feel me, guys. You've hanging out with me for 6 weeks now. I've disclosed all, like, I'm, my chart's an open book. I love my chart. So the thing is that you can see more of me now, right? I've got 2 stelliums ruled by Venus. I've got an 8th house stellium, which means I'm deep and I do not do shallow. I do not do superficial. I cannot handle it. It just doesn't work for me. Okay, so you understand more of me. But where is the energy? So the energy is so much in the 8th house. So that's where a lot of my focus is. So someone who has a stellium in the 5th house, where's all their focus going to be? Fun. They are very, very, very fun people. You 5th house stellium peeps. Fun. Children are a big part of these guys. That their inner child is really dynamic. Their inner child is really quirky. These guys with the 5th house stellium, they're fun to be around. They're lively. They're optimistic. Yeah. So you're looking at the house, and what does the house represent? So if you have a stellium in that house, of course, that's going to be like a very primary focus on who you are, the sort of energy that you bring with you everywhere. Yeah. So that is your house stellium. But then you have a sign stellium, and a sign stellium might go over 2. You might have 2 planets in Scorpio, say, in one house, and then in the house next to it, you've got another 2 planets also in Scorpio, but in a different house. So you don't have a house stellium, but you have a Scorpio stellium, which means that there is a lot of Scorpio energy over those 2 houses. Yeah. So that is a stellium. Stelliums are, not everyone has a stellium. But it really just is as simple as that. I don't want to overcomplicate this. I don't believe we need to. At the end of the day, a stellium is just condensed energy there. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not overcomplicate empty houses. An empty house just means that you've come in here and you've come into this world and chosen for those areas not to be a huge thing. Okay, now it actually can go one of two ways, because some people try really hard if they've got an empty house. So say I have nothing in my fifth house, nothing. I am so not fucking creative. I'll tell you what, I am piss poor at creativity. But it's also the children house. And look, I have had 3 children. I've fallen pregnant pretty effortlessly. I didn't, I wanted to have, I planned my 2 daughters, my 2 recent daughters, and at 16 I didn't plan to have a child, but I fell pregnant and I have my beautiful near 21-year-old. So it's definitely, but I've got nothing in my 5th house, right? So someone with nothing in their 5th house could go either way. They could go, I desperately need children, or it's just something. And look, we're always going to have empty houses. Do the math. 12 houses, 10 planets. Always going to be empty houses. Actually something that's actually more quite rare to see is, lots of like 1 planets in every house. It's very, very rare to find a chart that's so, it seems very balanced, because most charts, it's all condensed, or there's lots of stelliums, I know some people who have 10 of their planets in 2 houses and in 2 signs, and everything else is empty, bar their Chiron and North Node. Sometimes their Chiron and their North Node is with that. Often if their Chiron and North Node is away, that's a different, that's where we look at something different there. But let's just talk about the 10 planets. Crazy. So 10 planets, 2 signs, everything was in those 2 signs when they were born. So, this is difficult, because that means that all the outer planets have to be in the same signs. Like, they have to be close to each other, which has happened, but it doesn't happen all the time, okay? So, but the thing is that there's always going to be empty houses, and it either becomes something that you push for, and I probably recommend not, because where the planets are, that's actually what you're here to sort of accustomed to. Like, that's what you're accustomed to do. That's what you're here to accomplish. That's what you're here to drive towards. So for me, of course, look, I've got all those planets in the 8th house. I was never not going to be an astrologer, was I? I was never not, from a young age. I've been interested in all these things, numerology and astrology and the universe, and knowing that there's more to life and all these sorts of things. Like, from a very, very, very young age, I knew that. And of course, I've got an 8th house stellium. I was never just going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to grow up, go to uni, work until I'm 65, get married, have 3 children, and then retire. Never once have I ever thought that in my whole life. Whereas some people do, because their planets are in different parts of their chart, right? So an empty house isn't anything to worry about, okay? There is a whole nother layer to empty houses, which isn't in this course, but what I'm actually going to do, and I've got some notes and stuff, I'm actually going to put together like a 2-hour webinar, or just record this as a 2-hour thing that you can pre-purchase about empty houses, because what we look to is the cusp of the empty house, the ruler of that house, and how we can introduce that in, and that's the way we live out at that empty house. So I've actually got all of that up, so hopefully I'll get that one out, and that will just be something cheap and just something that is there, so it's always there, so I can always promote that as well. But for this level, we don't actually need to know that. All we need to know at the beginning is that where our planets are is where the energy is directed, and where the planets aren't is where the energy isn't, okay? And just understanding that and knowing that. And then we look to the quadrants, and then we're looking at all the quadrants, and I've just put like a couple of, words for each of the quadrants, so the first quadrant is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd house, self-development, self-identity, self-awareness. Second quadrant, 4, 5, and 6 houses, self-expression, integration of immediate environment, personal expression of feelings. And then when you're looking at all of the quadrants, you'll notice that each quadrant has one of each quality, doesn't it? There's a cardinal, a fixed, a mutable. A cardinal, a fixed, a mutable. So the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses will always be what? Cardinal houses, yeah? And then the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th houses will always be what? Fixed houses. And then, of course, 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th are always the mutable houses, and they also have other names, and there's more. This just goes on forever, guys. It goes on forever. So you will notice that in each quadrant there is a quality of each. The third quadrant, 7, 8, and 9, that is self-expression, awareness of others, social identity. Fourth quadrant, 10th, 11th, and 12th houses, self-transcendence, social expression, and integration of society. So that is just, you know, a nice big chunk, hour and a half of just other things to add to the chart. Other important things, looking at where the planets are, looking at where a majority of the planets are for you, stelliums, empty houses, really going into those angular houses quite deeply so that you've got that real good understanding. Then you know, tacking on understanding that first, fourth, seventh, and 10th house to really pull together the angular house qualities and elements and fields, you know, to really understand that. So then you've got your little quiz. So these are just these little extra little bits, okay? These are the extra little bits for you to add to your beautiful astrology repertoire. It has been a true honour, and so I just want to, you know, wrap up with a few little notes that I have here. For me, astrology is a key to unlock who you are. It unlocks the magic of the universe. It's like a secret, not so secret superpower. That's how I see astrology. I do believe that it is a superpower, and I do believe it is just magic. It is magic in motion. And when we activate our chart, unlock the potential, own our own gifts, whether they're recognized or not, when we understand the chart and we understand ourselves, uncover our magic and our shadows, we wake up. Yeah, we wake up. We wake our chart up. We start having a relationship with it. I do believe it is a superpower, and I do believe it's secret, not so secret. You know, the thing is that JP Morgan says that millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires use astrology. You know, of course they do. Of course billionaires have astrologers. They're not stupid, right? So the thing is that we've got to understand what's going on upstairs, as you know, as without, so within, as above, so below, right? What's going on there is activating our chart always. Of course, that's transits, but the thing is that no matter what, we need to know our chart for the base of that. We need to know our chart like the back of our hand. Yeah, I believe we should be teaching children their charts, and I love teaching my daughters their charts and how to read charts, because I think it's imperative to know, to understand yourself. This is about falling in love with yourself. Falling in love with your chart, admitting to yourself who you are. That's the biggest key to liberation. I tell you what, I've been living this life for decades, and it is the key to liberating who you are. It is freedom. It is freedom personified, because no longer are you strapped in the confinements of what other people think, or what that person said, or what I did at school, or what my mum said when I was 13. All of a sudden, it's all there. And you can understand it, you can recognize it, you can play it out, you can go, oh yeah, I do have some relationship stuff going on. That's happening in my relationship house. Okay, I see that. I see where I play a part in that. You know, because the big thing is that you don't use astrology for an excuse. You don't use it as a default. Oh, well, I've got that there, so I'm sort of poor me. You know, I'm part of some 12th house groups, and they're all poor me. Oh, my life is so hard. My life is so hard because I'm old 12th house. I'm like, we've got direct communication to the universe, us 12th houses. I'm sorry, but 12th house placements are fucking rad, man. I've got 2 there, and I've got 2 planets in my 12th house, and they are a direct line, and I have unequivocally an unshakable trust in the universe, and that is purely because I have planets in the 12th house. So while they're crying wolf, I'm crying freedom. Okay, and I'm crying connection over here. So know your own chart and don't buy into maybe fear, or don't buy into using it as a default, or, oh, my Mercury in my chart's retrograde, boo-hoo. No, actually you utilize that well. People with Mercury retrograde in their chart often, or Mercury in the 12th house, often amazing poets, incredible writers, very incredible writers. Whilst they might have trouble sometimes communicating, their writing ability is profound. I know. I've read for a girl who has Mercury retrograde in her chart. Again, we're not talking retrogrades in charts, but that's maybe something else I can do another time. Retrograde Mercury in her chart in the 12th house. An amazing poet. Like, I can't even tell you. Her poetry is exquisite. So don't use it as a default. Use it as your superpower. Yeah, use it as your superpower. you become skilled at navigating your own life. You become unshakable. And I say that with reverence, because I'm not, just something that's immovable and I've learnt all my lessons here and I've got nothing more to learn. I don't mean it in an arrogant way. It's certainly not who I am. I mean, become unshakable, that you know so deeply and profoundly who you are that nothing can completely shake you from that strong identity. That's what I mean. Have the courage to face what needs to be faced. And sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes we are being challenged outside of ourselves. But when we know ourselves and we understand either the lesson or why it's playing out in the chart or what's going on in the astrology in the skies, when we understand that, we're all of a sudden the driver. You know, I know a lot of people that are the backseat passengers of their own lives, and hell no would I want to be that. I am the driver of my own life. I am the navigator, and I have become very skilled in navigating my life, and most of it comes down to astrology. I'm not going to say all of it because there's a lot of other things that have happened. You know, I've done a lot of work on myself. I've shown up a lot, but a majority of it comes to astrology. It's how I know who I am. It's that tool of self-mastery. Master yourself and you master the universe. And I encourage, like I said earlier, to not lose the foundation as you spread your astrology wings. And I encourage you to read books, listen to astrologers. Absolutely, because once you start to understand this, all of a sudden, the astrology that you sometimes might listen to or read, you're not getting so lost anymore. You're like, oh, well, I know what she means there because I understand Jupiter more now, or I understand Mars more. And she's saying Jupiter and Mars are together. So, oh, that's going to be like an expansive action-orientated energy, or it could be an expanded aggressive or violent as well. So, you know, you're going to start to understand and start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. You're going to actually get it a little bit more. Yeah. So spread those wings wide, beautiful souls, because this is, like I said, this is like the only thing I feel like my legacy is just for people to, I invite people to know who they are. That's it. Stop the end. No learning from other people how to be authentic, your chart. No going to workshops to become authentic, your chart. No going to workshops to become more intuitive, your chart. It's all there. Every answer you have is within you, not outside of yourself. I've never gone to a psychic because it's all in my chart. I know it all. Yeah? I don't know it all. I don't know it all, but I am aware is what I mean. You know what I mean. I'm aware of it, right? And yeah, of course I need people to hold space for me sometimes, of course. But the thing is I'm a heavy Taurian too, though, you know. Like Taurians are very, very resourceful and we do a lot ourselves. I've got Chiron on my sun. I've done all of my healing work myself. This is just how I've come into this world, okay? And there's nothing wrong with seeing psychics or, you know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I encourage and invite you to go to your own inner psychic first. Go to your own well of information first. Go to your own infinite potential first. And the first port of call for me isn't outside of ourselves. It's right here in our chart. It's right here within us. Everything you need to know, any question you have the answer for that. This is my foundation. This work that I've just shared with you for 6 weeks is my everything, is my heart. It for me is where it's at. You are the most powerful person in your world, and do not let other people sway that. That's why I don't seek externally, because I don't need other people planting seeds. I know how to create my own reality. Yeah, I will look to my chart before I do anything else. I will sit with myself. I will sit with the tree. I will sit with nature first and foremost, yeah? So I encourage you to not lose this foundation, to know that this is just a drop in the ocean of astrology. This is just where it starts. This is the bones, yeah? This is, it's juicy and delicious and I love it so much. And I encourage you to keep it simple. Don't try and overcomplicate it. Don't get in your mind about it. Oh, but what if this house is this and this is this? Just if it's becoming overcomplicated, it is ego. Where there is simplicity, there is God. Where there is effortlessness and flow, there is God. Where it's complicated and angsty and I'm thinking too much, ego. You know, out of the mind and into the heart. And look, I know it's more natural for some of us to be intuitive astrologers because we're more feeling, and for others it is more natural for them to be intellectual astrologers. And I'm not denying that if you're more of a person who needs to know. But I'm just saying keep it simple to begin with. Don't try and overcomplicate it. And yeah, try and say perpendicular in France before you know how to say hello. Yeah, that's this 6 weeks is hello astrology. Hi, nice to meet you. I want to meet myself. I don't need perpendicular. I don't need to know all the other fancy things that, you know, of course I've shared little bits and bobs because it's hard, because it's just my life. It's what I talk about all the time. But you don't need to know all of those things yet. This needs to be your mastery. Getting fluent in this 6 weeks where you just know off the top of your head, boom, boom, boom. That is where it is at. Okay. So yeah, so keep it simple, guys, and don't lose the foundation no matter where you go with this. It might end here after the 6 weeks, and bless, namaste, because guess what? You've got a secret, not so secret superpower to understand yourself more, and then to be liberated and free in the world, to accept other people, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're that sign with that moon. Oh, wow. Thanks for telling me you're that moon sign, because now I understand you more. And I don't have to judge you or be mean to you or be defensive or think that you don't like me. It's just actually how you come across. You come across as a bit detached because you've got this moon, right? So instead of taking things personally, all of a sudden you're free from that shit as well. And if you are continuing on to learn more with me or just by your own personal study, anytime you need to ask questions, let me know. If you want to book in a session, of course, you can come and see me. We have an astrology membership group, which I will share more about, and you'll get in the email as well, where we come together, and there's a little membership group as well. But for now, integrate all of this, beautiful souls, and thank you so much for your love and your commitment to yourself and your soul. Thank you for your sharing, for your lots of juicy yumminess in our group. Our live calls have been amazing. Thank you all so much for showing up. It truly, my heart just like explodes, because I know that, this is just the beginning for most of you. There's so many that have been interested in astrology, but then this sort of brings them a new dynamic, a new element to go, yeah, I really want to dive deeper into this, or now I'm content and I really get that now and I feel really free around that. So wherever you are on your journey is perfect, and just keep understanding yourself. Just keep understanding your own beautiful chart and keep diving into it. Never stop, because I tell you, the landscape changes, everything changes, and it's the only one thing that we've got that's definite is change and transformation. So I hope that this has been an amazing catalyst for you to transform your life, to heal your life, to inspire you, to bring you back home to yourself, for you to be comfortable, for you to feel like I am okay to be me now. That would, that's my biggest heartfelt wish. So thank you all so much. Week 6, so much love. Enjoy the week diving into these last few elements, and I will see you on our very last live call. Namaste. Bless.